Welcome to the Clicks and Giggles podcast. I'm so excited to have Jamie Berman here today. She is an amazing coach and she's also actually one of my clients. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is so fun. So I'm super excited to have you here. And so I would love for you to just tell the listener, like, kind of how you got here, a little bit about you before we dive into everything.
Yes, absolutely. So I am a coach and my specialty is money and manifestation.
I love it.
Actually, both of them combined. So I love teaching and coaching entrepreneurs around money mindset. And I really bring in, like, my specialty is the energetic piece of money, right? So it's not necessarily like the strategy, but really the mindset behind making money, creating money. And I would say the energy behind it, because that's really like the feelings that are behind it. And so I love working with entrepreneurs around that, because I find that, and this has been like also my personal story, is that it's not something we were taught, first of all, like in school,
right
at all, or even in business school. Like, I took business classes, I took finance, and we weren't taught about like the importance of how you think about money and your belief systems and all of that. And it can impact everything, right? So when we're trying to become an entrepreneur or trying to grow our business, but we're not addressing that piece, it can continuously get in the way. And so I realized once I started doing work around that, that's when I saw my income skyrocket, right? And so that's why I love teaching it, because it makes all the difference. When you start doing that inner work, you see it happen externally, right? You actually see the results shift. So I love it. So cool. It's so fun. And I love helping women make money.
Yes. No, I love it. And you have such a good roster of clients. You have a mastermind, you have your group coaching program that's for a year, and then you have other fun workshops and different things that you're doing. But I love seeing just the different ways you work with people. So we were talking before we got on about sort of the theme of giving yourself permission to pivot. And so you haven't always worked with money mindset, manifestation. So what were you doing before, and how did this come to be, this change? And how did you give yourself permission to pivot?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It wasn't like an easy permission, just to let you know. I'll share the story, but it was, in terms of, it wasn't easy. Let me put it this way. It was an easy pivot. It just wasn't easy in my mind. I made it a lot harder than it needed to be, which I see a lot of people doing too. But yeah, I actually, so whenever I got into coaching, it's funny because I dabbled in money. I was kind of more of a general life coach, and I did coach women around money, but I realized I have so much of my own work to do around it that I had a little bit of like imposter syndrome. So I actually, it's funny because thinking back, I'm like, I know I was always meant to be a money coach, because I hosted like these money book clubs at my house for free, and like would host them and kind of coach people around it. But it was really because I wanted to do my own work around that. But when I got certified as a life coach back in 2019, it was just like, I went through kind of a business training, and it was like, pick your very specific niche and don't have any drama about it. Just pick it. And I was like, I just want to go all in. And at that time, the inner work that I was doing was around my body image and weight, right? So I have PCOS and I had hormonal stuff going on. And I was like, I really want to learn how to release weight in a way that's loving and kind, and that feels like something that is going to last the rest of my life. So that was the work I was doing. And I just decided, because that's what I'm working on and what, you know, was kind of consuming me at that time, in terms of like, when you're going on a journey like that, you think about it a lot. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to be a weight loss coach for women with PCOS.
It's so neat.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Right. It's so niche. And it was awesome. Right. Like, what it did for me was amazing, because it really motivated me to stay on track with my own work. And it was like super cool, because everything that I was going through and learning, I blogged about it. I didn't say it was me, but it was like more of like anything that I was going through, I would just teach it. And lots of people resonated. And there was a ton of women with PCOS and with hormonal stuff. And at that time, there were really I think there might've been one other PCOS coach, but they were not doing the mindset piece, right? They were just like, eat this and don't eat that. Right. And so,
well, and I have PCOS. So it's like, when you said that in the past, so when you said that in the past, I was like, oh, this resonates so much. I'm so intrigued because there aren't people, I mean, there are more now, but like
way more now. Yes.
I had to like beg. My husband and I laugh. Like I literally had to beg to get diagnosed. Like my doctor was like, well, you don't have this and you don't have this. And I said, my beard would indicate otherwise.
Exactly,
like
me too, right? It's like,
I'm
exactly.
like, I have, like, I could tell you. And so finally, of course, she was like, oh yeah, let's just do the IUD. And I'm like, we want to have kids one day. Like, I don't want to do this right now. I want to figure out life without hormonal birth control or even the IUD. And so it was funny when I started to research, there wasn't a lot, and now there's more, but it's also figuring out who you trust. And I love that you had the mindset and coaching around it. So, so then with all of that, how do you leave that? Right?
Well,
like,
I know.
How does that come to be, right?
I did. I mean, and as I did that work, like I lost 50 pounds, I was feeling amazing, but I got to this point where I felt complete myself with it. And I felt like, you know what I mean? It was more of like, and I also feel like I got to this place where I felt like I was putting pressure on myself to have kind of the quote unquote perfect body or feel like I couldn't gain any weight. Like it was this unintentional pressure. I consciously wasn't doing it to myself, but I felt like as a weight loss coach, I need to be this or that. And I just hated it. I was like, I'm done thinking about my own body. Like I want to completely release this. I feel complete. So I think the coaching was a reflection of that, where I was like, I just don't really want to talk about this anymore. It's not, and like now, I mean, I would talk about it with friends and stuff, but I didn't want that to be my world.
Well,
and it wasn't,
your day.
It wasn't my passion.
Yeah,
totally. It was more of like an amazing bridge that helped me get through and transform it myself. And along the way, I helped so many women. I mean, so many women lose weight, change their relationship with their body. And my business it grew. I mean, I had a 6-figure business. That was the first time in my life that I grew my coaching business to 6 figures. So it was going well. So the pivot was challenging because it was working. It's one thing to pivot when it's not working, but it's like, wait a minute, like this is working. I'm getting clients. I finally have a funnel that works. I've got this group program. I know that what I teach works.
And you become known for it, right? And so you're also, people are saying, oh, you have PCOS or you're struggling hormonally, you need to go talk to her. And so
100%.
So how do you get, so you probably had to wrestle with that, right? Like I'm giving up a business.
Yeah.
And how long did you kind of noodle on it before changing?
So I think it was about a year, because I remember, so I signed, I got accepted into master coach training, which is a very, it's like a deep dive into coaching, right? And this was at the life coach school, and we all had to pick a project that year. And I remember going to, at that time we had like an in-person in the Bahamas, and it was awesome. And I remember just saying like, gosh, I just don't feel aligned. I was like, I really like, they were like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I love spirituality and I'm super woo-woo and I love to manifest and that's how I get all the results in my life, but nobody's going to want it. And they're like, Jamie, what are you talking about? I'm like, no one's spiritual in the coaching world. Like what? I don't even know what I was thinking. Right.
That's so wild.
But it was so funny because like I was getting coached on it, and like, I know that what I probably needed to do was change the niche right then. But I remember they were like, what's your project? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to manage my mind around PCOS and I'm just going to go all in on that for the year, which was my project. And it was so
you like
funny.
fought.
I fought it. I totally did. And so my project of master coach training was to build out this massive course/membership on PCOS coaching. I did it. I completed the project, and I literally, like, the project was to create it. And then I think it was do something like make $20,000 your first month of it, right? That was like the project. Wow. So I created it over a 6-month period, launched it, got all these people in. And right after I launched it, I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I can't even show up for another. It was just like this knowing in my body, I can't do this. I remember going to a coaching call and say like with my coach. And I was like, this is the problem, but I don't know what's next, right? I don't know what's on the other side. And she said, how about if you just accept that you don't want to do this, and just really believe that you'll know when you know, and like lean into that belief. Cause I think I was trying to figure it out from my mind of like, oh, well, if I don't do this, then I have to know what the next step is, and it has to be super clear. And I just leaned into that belief. I'll know when I know. And it was in that moment that I had that, like, I can't show up to another coaching call doing this. And I just decided to kind of go general. And the first thing that I did was I was like, I know I love coaching coaches. There were also a lot of coaches coming to me on the side of PCOS coaching, like asking, how did I grow my business? Will you coach me around that? And so I knew I loved that. So I was like, maybe I'll just be a general coach for coaches, right?
Yeah.
Started that. Decided to refund everyone from that program. Like, I literally was like, I'm just closing the whole thing down, refunded everyone. And I just went general to start with. And then it was like, as time went on, I feel like it just evolved into what it was always meant to be, but it happened little by little. It wasn't like I started where I am now. It was just more of like me going general and then consistently saying like, who am I, right? Like, what do I love? And having the courage to really share that and just be authentic. And it just evolved into what it is now.
And you also, which is what I talk about a lot, is like you still took action despite not knowing what the next step was, right? So it's like you don't know what the end of the staircase looks like, but you're like, I'll take a step. Yeah. Let's see. Yes. And now here you are. That is so neat. So then did you start the money manifestation movement first, or like how did you have someone? I don't even know this.
I just went general. I was like, I'm just going to be a coach for coaches. So I did a one-on-one. I was just coaching one-on-one at that time. And here's what's wild, Jordan, is that so many people, like, at least the conditioning that I got was, you don't change your niche. Like, once you have a niche, you don't change it. That was it was like, you kind of manage your mind around it. No niche is perfect. You just, like, I don't know why, but that's why that fear was there. But here's what's wild is that I closed that business. I refunded thousands and thousands of dollars to people. And I decided to just like make an announcement on my Instagram that I was changing my niche and that I'm coaching coaches and I have one-on-one spots. I am not kidding you, Jordan. I was full within, it must have been 2 months. My practice was completely full. My price also had gone way up. So I think I went from charging like couple of $1,000s for the PCOS. And I was like, nope, I'm going to do 10K. Right. So I increased my prices. My income just skyrocketed. So it's like, when you're in alignment, it's so wild how I feel like you don't have to work as hard to try to make it happen. Right. It's like, when you're in alignment, like I felt like the right people just started becoming attracted to me and found me. It was incredible.
When you stop fighting it, because I didn't probably understand what alignment meant until maybe this year or the last year, just digging more into human design and looking into it. And I'm like, oh, no wonder this has felt so hard at times, because when you're fighting that next step, it's never going to feel right or good. But if you're like, here's where I want to head, it feels good when we're doing this. Oh, it does feel so much, I was telling my husband this morning, we were texting, I said, oh, this client signed at a new, higher rate. I'm doing like 2 fractional CMO clients taking on just testing the waters, right? Amidst ads. And he was like, oh, at the new rate. I was like, 100%, like that is what it's worth now and time wise. And then I said, yesterday someone at the lowest retainer paused, and it makes sense for where they're restructuring their business. And I was like, it just makes sense. Like, that's all I said. And he like hearted it, and so I just was like, oh yeah, of course this happens. And like, they'll be back. Like my friend and I always joke, like they always come back in the service provider world. It just, they
totally do, right?
Yeah. and probably with coaching, if they're the right fit, And so it's so funny when you stop fighting it and you're like, okay, this does work. This is meant to be. But when you're trying to make something work, it just absolutely can't. And so what are some ways, if people are listening and they're like, I don't feel aligned, like how do you start to kind of work through that? Like, obviously in the show notes we'll link to like future events, challenges, things you're doing.
Yeah.
And then obviously talking about your mastermind too, if they may be a good fit.
Yeah.
But what are some things people can take action on today if they're like, this feels, because there's one thing, like in business, sometimes it will be hard, right?
Yeah.
If you have a corporate
Totally.
job, it's hard.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly feeling unaligned, how can you start to take inventory of that and make a change?
Yeah. Well, I think we tend to not feel aligned when we're trying to fit ourselves into a box that we think we need to fit ourselves into in order to be successful or in order for things to work, right? That's typically what I see. It's like almost like we take on this conditioning of this is what I have to do in order to be successful, or this is what, you know what I mean? This is what I was taught it has to be.
Yeah.
And I think the way that we first is just recognize, what is it that I don't like here, right? What is it that feels unaligned?
Like pausing long enough to process that feeling.
Exactly. Or like, what box am I trying to fit myself into that I don't actually want, right? And being willing, I think, to even question like that there's one way. So starting to look for expanders, well, I call it expanders, right? But it's like people or examples of people who are doing things in a different way that are more aligned with what you might like.
Yeah, that's neat.
Right?
Just to kind of start seeing the vision of like, oh, this is possible.
Yes. Yes, totally. So for example, for me, it probably would have been looking for an example of someone who's changed their niche and been totally fine. Because at that time, I was trying to fit myself into a box of, nope, I just need to manage my mind around this niche. I have to make it work, even though it's not what I actually want. So I think finding alignment, there's many ways we can do it. Number one, ask yourself, if I could have anything, what would that actually look like? What is the dream? Like, if there were no rules, what would I want? How would I want my business to be? And then see if there's any thoughts that tell you you can't have that for some reason. And you have to be willing to go in there and question those and get coached on those. Like, right? Challenge those, because they are limiting beliefs. It's not true.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so, no, it's good. And I know we were talking about limiting beliefs on our team call the other day, just around some marketing we're doing for it. And can you explain more if someone's new to that thought of a limiting belief? Like how, obviously, like I hear it, I'm like, oh, it's a limiting belief. But for someone else, could you explain it even more as to like what those could sound like in their mind, or what they may be thinking that is kind of around business and money? That would be really neat.
I mean, there's so many, but it's basically, it's any belief that you're holding. Like, and here's the thing is that most of the time it's hard to spot our own limiting beliefs, which they're just beliefs that we hold. They're thoughts that we think that we've been taught, and we think they are just facts. We think that they are just true, right? Because they're like automatically go on in our brain. And so I will say it is so helpful to have a coach, because a coach can help you spot them and even see that it is a belief and that it's optional. So for example, at that time, I was thinking that like one of the limiting beliefs that I was holding around the pivot was, if I pivot, it's going to take a long time to rebuild what I built, or I'm going to stop making money, right? Those kind of beliefs, those are limiting beliefs. And it's like, they weren't even true. I started making more money whenever I switched to something general, right?
Wow.
Or another limiting belief I see a lot in coaches is like, I have to have a super specific niche for it to work. And it's like, you can if that's what you feel called to do, but there's also people who have more general niches that are millionaires, right? So like, it's not actually true. So I find it's a limiting belief when it doesn't feel good, when it's something that we're telling ourselves that we have to do, or this is the way life is, but it feels terrible. That's how you know it's a limiting belief. There's so many around money, right? Which is, I mean, I could go on and on forever around limiting beliefs about money.
It's wild. We sold our house and moved a little north, like outside the city in Atlanta, and we just wanted an adventure. And then of course the interest rates went up and all this stuff. And there was like this limiting belief around us having a house again one day, which is like, we will. It's just so silly. But I remember like catching myself all the time, like probably a year ago, being like, oh, we're never going to have a house again. Oh, we're
Yeah.
never going to have a house as big as we used to in this market.
Right.
Or like, oh, what if our kids have to share a room, which God forbid they did, they would be
Right.
fine. You know,
Right.
like all these things.
Totally.
And finally I was like, Brad, I have said this in my head and I haven't said it out loud. And it just sounds wild, you know? And
Yes.
he was like, yes, we'll have a house again. It just depends
Yes.
what kind of house based on the market, you know? And so
Right.
I catch myself even in things like, you know, this is just how it is one I try to fight, but I realized
Yeah.
with it, and that was around money, but it was about a house, right? And
Yep.
so it is
100%.
so wild, especially like if you've been in conversations with people and then what they're thinking, you get the thought and you're like, could it be hard to get a house? Maybe it could. And it's like,
Yeah.
the truth is like, how bad do you want it and what are you going to do to get it, you know? And
Yes.
so that's where, you know, I changed the thought to like, the perfect house is out there for us.
Totally.
And when we're ready, we're going to find it and we're going to get it, you know? And it's like,
Exactly.
it's not like I'm saying we're going to have a $12 million house as our next one, you know, but it's like, we're going to be safe in the meantime until then, and we'll figure it out. And so it's just funny. It's like, I've done enough coaching with coaches to be able to go through that. But had I been working with a coach regularly, I could have been like, this keeps coming up for me. And this is like, what is this, you know? And so
Totally.
I love your advice too of like, when you have a coach, those are the things you're working through. Because I think too, a lot of people that I know that aren't, I have like two sides of friends. I have like my friends in the service provider coaching industry who are like, this is what we do all day.
Yeah.
Then I have some friends who are like, I don't understand what you do. What is coaching? Like, this is crazy. And so it's funny because the ones who don't understand yet, I'm like, oh, it's like having like a trusted advisor who sees blind spots for you.
Totally.
And you know what I mean? And so that is so, I love that with the limiting beliefs of like spotting it. And then also, so is that a lot of what you do within your,
that is
your
my
program?
Job. That is my job.
And are you
I
just
can
so
pull those
aware?
things out so fast. Oh yeah, I love it. Like that's my job is I just listen to someone and they have no idea that what they are spitting out is limitations.
Wow.
And so my job is to identify where, and you have done that for me because obviously we all have a harder time spotting our own limiting beliefs. And you've done that for me. I remember on our call in January when we were talking about my pricing and the movement and you were like, wait a minute. And like, you were like, why is it that price? And like, I had never thought about it. And I had some limiting beliefs because that was the model that I saw. Right. And so, you know, I recently raised my rates and it really is a tribute to like the work that I, you know, with working with you and you helped me to spot it. So that's the thing is it's so much harder to see our own, whether we're like the most masterful coach or not. Right. Like,
stuff's going to come up. Yeah. It's
100%.
And my thing is too, is like, am I going to noodle on this and be in agony for 6 months? Or are we going to nip this in the bud in like 2 weeks and it may not be fun, but let's do it. Or like, what if you hadn't raised the rates and then, you know, a year from now, you're like, oh, I wish my revenue was X. And had you raised the rates, had the same people, it would be, you know? And so that's why a lot of what I do with people is like looking at the numbers because people can make the number an emotional thing, but it's a number. So it's like, okay, it's number of courses sold, it's number of people coming through a program, and it's the dollar amount like that. You just can't argue with it, you know? And so it definitely does come to a point where it's like, okay, if the value's there, let's freaking raise this price and see. And I love, you know, in doing work with Susie Holman and just chatting with her, like, she's like, people will tell you, I mean, this isn't just her, it's in general, like the market will tell you if it's too high or low. And then you can reassess. But if you know it's worth X and people will pay all day. And so, no, I love that. So I'm curious too, because you can spot things and limiting beliefs in other people. And I know there's training on this where you ask, you know, do you say, hey, can I coach you? Is that kind of
my clients assume that, I mean, I don't ask them because they're coming to me for coaching, you know?
Like, what about like with your husband or people you're friends with or family members? Is it hard sometimes to not like when you see it, or how do you juggle that? Cause I'd be like, Brad, this is not, you're wrong. Like I wouldn't say it, but I'd want to. So how do you do that?
No, 100%. And that's something, especially whenever I started coaching, it was hard to know that line, but now with my husband, he wants to see it. Luckily, he's really open. He's super coachable. We're very much in the same, like, we want to grow together. So he loves it whenever I challenge things, and he'll come to me and even ask me for that, which is a lot of fun. But there are definitely people in my life and friends and stuff, and I'll spot their limiting belief, but I'm not going to say it unless they're asking me for coaching. It's it's almost like I know how to put my coach hat on, and then I know how to be in the world and just be, you know, a normal human with, you know, all the thoughts and stuff. And I'll spot things, but I never coach people on it unless they're asking for coaching.
Yeah. Like it's coming up and you're like, okay.
Because we're all, I mean, we all have limiting beliefs. We're all limiting ourselves all the time. It's just like, to what extent, right?
Yes. So, no, this is wild. No, I know it. I'm like pondering. I'm like, what else am I limiting myself in? And so with that now, with coaching, so what is, just because especially if people are interested, you have the mastermind, which if people are listening right when this comes out, applications are open till May 17th, right? I believe. And so that is a super neat place for them if they want more of a smaller group, more, you know, close with you coaching. And then can you also talk about the movement? Because I think that's such an interesting place for people to start if they are, would you say that's more newer to business or newer to what?
Yeah, not necessarily. There's people, and so I have what Jordan's referring to as the money manifestation movement. It's my program that it's really geared towards up leveling your money mindset. Like really like what we've been talking about, identifying and shifting your limiting beliefs so that you can make more money. So that's really what that program is around, is developing a much more abundant relationship with money and learning how to make more of it. So we do have definitely a lot of new entrepreneurs in there, but we also have people who are making like millions of dollars.
Wow.
Because the thing is, like, as long as you want to grow, you're never going to stop working on it. So that program is really for any entrepreneur who wants to do a deep dive on money and really shift your relationship with it. Yeah. And that's a 1-year program. And yeah, it's amazing.
It's good. No, truly the testimonials. I was working with our designer today just on some graphics for you. And I was just reading the testimonials, reading them. I'm like, the wins are so good.
They're huge, right? Yeah. I mean, we have people who like have came in. I'm just thinking of like one of my clients and like started out she was like making $300 a month. Like that was about where she was at, feeling like she was in no control of making money or anything. And now like just a little over a year later, she's making $50,000 a month. And she's like, I can't even believe this is what is happening, you know? So like when you do that kind of work, it shifts things so quickly. Like you will see that the shifts that you make internally, you will also see externally in your bank account. That's what's so fun about doing work around money.
Because you have to show up differently, right? I mean, or else it's not going to change. And so as you're going through the coaching with you, then they're challenged in their brain, but also out in the world, how they act around it.
Yeah. And we do like monthly topics too that help people, you know, they're really fun, first of all, but it really helps you kind of identify where your blind spots are, where your limiting beliefs are, and then helps you shift them. And we do different ones every single month. So it keeps people really engaged. I do coaching in there. It's really involved. So it's an awesome program.
It's so good. The wins are amazing. And what we'll do, we'll link in the show notes, we'll link information about the mastermind, about the movement, and then also your workbook is so good, so we can link that just so people, if they're like, okay, I need to learn about this, how can I, we'll get you connected. So I love that. So now as far as like your business goes, like what do you dream about doing besides what you're doing now, which seems like a good dream? Are there other things that you are manifesting that you can share or working on?
Absolutely. I love sharing it all. For sure. Yes.
What do you see as this grows? It's exciting.
I have the foundation built. Like it feels so good to say that because I love my business. I love my clients. I bring in really aligned clients. I love what I do. It works, right? So like, I feel like the foundation is there and I am just focused on scaling it. Like I just want to have more impact. I want to get like, help more people do this work. So, you know, making like up to my first goal is to hit 7 figures, which I'm on my way there.
Yes, you are.
You too.
No, it's freaking good.
Yes.
We had a really nice launch, but also, yes, that's your goal, and like you care so much about people that like it just happens. You know what I mean? Like I've never been on a call with you or working with you and been like, because there are clients in the past I worked with where it's like it's only money, it's only about money, and the person is what helps them get there. But you know, the more people you help, it just, the money is the byproduct, and also people are going to tell other people like, oh, she's helped me so much, I need to work with her, you know.
100%. It is, because, and that's the thing that that is how I think of to make money is, so I'll say, oh yeah, I want to make, you know, 7 figures. But the truth is that in order to make 7 figures, do you know how much I'm going to have to help other people make money, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, that's how I think about it always, is if I want to get to a certain number, my only job is to focus on helping my clients make money. Because when they make money, they go tell other people. There's just a ripple effect, right? They want to keep working together. So that is actually always my focus, is like, how can I help them make more money? How can I help them grow? How can I help them, you know, expand and all the totally.
When people are like, what? Who? Like, so I know you just did Guide Culture's sales, the awesome challenge they do, right?
Yes.
And so the sales girls who I work with, they always say, and even when they've trained me, like people will look at you and be like, who moved in? And so I feel that for what you're doing, like money is such a topic that even if people aren't talking about it, they're acting a certain way. And so as that changes, whether or not their lifestyle changes or just their posture, demeanor, like confidence, people are going to be like, who moved in? Like, what's going on? And that obviously is a ripple effect to you, which is so fun. But no, I love that about you too. It's funny because you work in money, but I've never felt like you were like, oh, we have to do this, or we have to, and I mean, I love it because you hold the line. You're like, this is how many people I would really like to get in, this is our goal, this is who we're helping, and like, let's freaking go. But I feel like you're also not like, this is actually a good topic to talk about with launching, you're not like married to the outcome to where it's like, oh my gosh, like if we were one person off, you know, where I've seen that with people, and I'm like, you just made X amount of money, a lot of money, and it's not you, but that, and I'm like, and it was a loss, like I don't, and so that shows me way more about money mindset and like the relationship with money that they may have. And I'm like, you know what, I shouldn't judge, it's different, I'm proud of what we did, move along, you know, and decide if it's worth working with someone who can't celebrate every win along the way, if you're head down all in, you know. And so how do you manage your mindset in launches? Because I know that because I know that some people spiral in those times, and I'm like just trying to be their cheer. I mean, you know, in a launch, I'm like, let's freaking go. Look at the numbers. Like, this is good.
I love it. I really I mean, I appreciate you and your energy so much, Jordan. You have no idea when you, I mean, you really are the best cheerleader ever, and you have no idea what kind of impact that makes. It's the best.
It's so fun. I love launching. Like my husband and I are like, how can we like me manage this energy, you know, in the long haul, because it is a lot, and it's I'm like, Brad, there's no high like it, it's so fun, and it's putting someone's great product into the world. So how do you manage your mindset during that?
Totally. Well, a lot of the principles that I teach within the money stuff and around abundance and manifestation, I just practice that within my whole business. So one of the lines that I am always reminding myself of and my clients of is, what you appreciate appreciates. So like, it's so much better to, like, for every single client that I get, I celebrate, like, not only because I'm like, oh, yay, I got a new client, but I'm like, holy cow, this person's life is about to change forever. Like, I know that, and I like celebrate that. So whether that's 20 people or 15 or 10, I don't care, because I'm like, that literally, even if it was one person, like that person's life is going to change forever. So my thought is always, if I go through an entire launch and all I get is one person in, it was worth it. Like that person's life will never, you know what I mean? Like it's going to be different forever. So that's one thing that I hold. But also I always hold the like, this or something even better for the highest good of all concerned. I say that after every goal, after every manifestation. I truly wholeheartedly believe that the people who are meant to be there are there. They're the ones that show up. Like, it's like, yeah, there's my brain's plan and what my expectations plan. And then there's God's plan, right? And I just trust in God's plan. And it's like, okay, well, it didn't happen this time. And I also, a lot of times will just continuously hold it. Like last time with the 20 people, I wanted 20, you know, like my intention was to get 20 people into my launch. And what did we get? 18, I think.
Right. Yeah. It was 18
I just
right at the
held
end.
it. I was like, amazing, we're at 18, right? I was celebrating the heck out of it. And I was like, and I already visualized 20, so I know there's more coming, right? And like, I just held it, even though it made no sense because the launch was closed. But I'm like, I'm just still holding 20 somehow, some way. I don't know, there's going to be 20. And so I just kept holding it. And then what do you know? I think it was like 2 weeks later, someone messaged me and said, hey, oh my gosh, I missed the deadline. Could I come in? And I was like, yes. Like, so we got one more then. And then, and then I just decided also, I was like, well, I know that there's 20. So I decided to do a little mini relaunch like 30 days later. So for me, it's like the goal just helps me kind of, it just inspires me to like keep going until I can find those people. So I'm not attached to it happening in the timeline that my ego thinks it needs to, but it's like more of, I'm just willing to kind of keep holding it until it happens, even if that's 3 launches down the road. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. And this really was our biggest launch yet, which was so exciting and fun. And it also, I don't know if it felt easy for you, but it felt good. I don't know. How did it feel for you?
I agree. It was good. It was, the only reason it was a lot is because it was followed by, I did an in-person retreat. And so it was like 2 weeks after that. So I had so many things back to back. So it felt like, that was kind of, as we evaluated, was like, okay, we need to give like a little more white space between.
That was crazy.
I love launching just because I love the live energy. I love teaching. I love doing the event piece. But I'm still getting like back end situated where it can just be even more easeful. And we're really doing that this time. I hired out, I got a COO. So like that's been really helpful.
Your ops are very, I was telling Liv that because I know we met on that one call to talk future work. And I was like, Liv, her ops are getting real sexy back there. And so as that's getting buttoned up, then there can be, and it's kind of like rinse and repeat. Like I think about, I honestly, with how everything's getting organized, I was thinking today, I was like, ooh, I bet I could have everything done for Black Friday by Halloween. And I'm like, I'm holding that boundary. So I'm like talking to my team about how do we tell everyone in August, let's get everything ready. And like what we've talked about on meetings is like, things change. And I always like, I don't give all my secrets away unless you work with me one-on-one, right? But like, we handle objections through ads and through copy and through messaging. So of course, if someone comes to you and is like, I've had people where like the name of a product confused them, the name of the, event. And we had to quickly put some messaging out around it to be like, oh, this is what that means. And people are like, oh, and then they buy. And so of course we're going to listen to the market and make changes accordingly, but let's have 92% of things buttoned up and then be able to go so that we can pivot easily. But also, cause that was a January launch, right? End of January.
Yeah, that was January.
It's so hard after the holidays. Plus you had that getting back into it. Like
I know
it does take energy out of you, and it does bring energy, and money is fun to make. But
it totally is. January, it was awesome. I was like, this is the best month ever. And my right hand woman, Daniela, who's been with me in my business for like 2 years. You love her, right? She's the best. She's like, Jamie, I think you did what most people do in a year in 1 month. I was like, I feel like I did. It was absolutely amazing, and I was like, I need a moment.
Yes, I remember being like, okay, February 1st, go sleep. And I think I took like that weekend, like just slept.
Yeah.
But truly like looking at, and to start January that way is so fun and start the new year. But yeah, I was in your Kajabi and I was like, whew, those numbers look nice, you know, like, and
it was so fun.
Especially because other people in the industry, they have big Q4s, they're launching things, they're doing Black Friday, and your business is different when your launches hit. And so what a fun thing to start the year fresh like that. And
totally.
Yeah. But you also, it's come in seasons, right? So like you sold, built this program, and now you're getting the ops even more organized. Where I see a mistake people make is they think their ops have to be perfect in order to sell. And it's like,
interesting.
You just have to freaking go after it. And so I do encourage anyone listening who's like, oh, I'm just trying to get my CRM right and this right. It's like, get out there and get your offer in hand. I didn't even know what
that stuff was. Like I had made like $500,000 in my business before I even realized like I didn't track anything. I used to remember coaching people and they were like, what do you track? I'm like, I don't track anything. They're like, how do you sell that much? I'm like, I just sell.
Well, and you care about their outcome versus like the conversion rate and this and that. And that stuff's important to know. I
literally didn't know any of that until literally this year.
Yeah, it's the best though. And I mean, I feel like this next launch will feel so much better and go.
I love it. I mean, now that we have it, I love it. It's so fun. But you don't have
you don't have to do it to sell. No. You need to just get, and like, you know this too, because people refer you, like, have a product, offer, service that you serve them so well that they can't help but sell it for you.
Yeah.
Then you have time down the road to put the systems in place. But I see people, they get tripped up. They're like, what CRM should I use? What this, that? And I'm like, just go. Just freaking go. You know, like have a like Google Doc and have a Facebook group and let me know how it works. Because I've seen people, you know, and it makes me so sad. I've seen people for months work on a course only to not even realize there was no demand for it. You know, where like we've talked about different ways of you know, buttoning up different things you own to sell differently. Well, there's the demand for it, you know? Yes. So I see that too. I see people get like lost in the sauce of systems, or they want to sell what they want to sell without kind of seeing what do people need or what would look good, you know?
Totally.
So okay, it's funny, as we were chatting, I looked at my episode tracker. Like this is like my podcast manager, I think, probably laughs at me because it's like so scrappy. Like I have a whole team and I'm like, oh my gosh, the doorbell rang or this or that, you know? But I was looking at it and I'm like, okay, we were going to have this come out. This is so funny that we're talking about this here. We were going to have this come out in time for people applying for the mastermind. But really what I'm like, want to get this out before your challenge, because I think people listening need to come to the challenge, don't you?
Yes.
That'd be so good.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yes. I'm like, wait. And then anyone who's interested in working with you on a higher level, mastermind, great. But I'd love for people to get the chance to work with you and learn more. So can you talk a little bit about the challenge and what it will be like so people are excited?
So first of all, my challenges, I'm going to just like toot my own horn for a minute because they are awesome.
They are awesome.
These are not like, so I do challenges a couple times a year, and it's all around money, and it's going to be amazing for anyone who is an entrepreneur, because even if you don't think you need to work on your money stuff, you will come and you will realize that there is such an opportunity for expansion. So my challenges, I've never held them as like webinar style of trying to just get people into my program, right? It's really like my intention for my challenges is to help you have a shift, right, around your money mindset and really be able to upgrade it and make more money, right? Like I want people in the challenges to be manifesting while we're doing it. So I have a 3-day challenge coming up. It's called the Make More Money Challenge. And it is from April 29th to May 1st. So you can sign up for it, and it's going to be, I'm going to go live an hour each of the day. You can come live or you can watch the replay and do the work around it. And I guarantee if you come in with the intention of having a shift around your money mindset, you will have a huge shift, right? Like I've had so many people who have created amazing results just from the challenge alone. They're super fun. I love doing them.
It's going to be so good. This will be linked in the show notes if you're listening now. And then, of course, I hope they see our ads as well, which will be running around the time this comes out anyways. But no, I think the challenge is going to be so good. You already run such amazing challenges. I know you've done Abundance Bootcamp and some others that are so great. And when we look at successful clients of yours, you see that they've gone through a challenge once,
Yep.
or they've done different things with you that have gotten them ready to create those incredible results on their own,
It sets
with
a
you.
really nice foundation. And what happens is, like, for most of my clients, they're like, I came to your challenge with just the intention of finding out what it was. And I ended up manifesting all these clients, or this happened during it. And they're like, so I just kept going and I wanted to work with you. And so it's really fun.
It's freaking exciting. So we'll link that. As we were sitting here, I was like, wait a minute. And so I have like us where we're recording pulled up, and then next to my episode tracker, I'm like, let's just move some things around and let's do it even sooner, because I want people to learn more about what you do. I only work with people whose missions I believe in, who I know care about their clients, and I know you do. And it's like, hey, if you're listening and you are like, wow, I have limiting beliefs, or I think some people don't even know the limiting beliefs they have because maybe it's how they grew up, or different things. Like they grew up thinking that having a lot of money was bad, or like they grew up with a parent, they had a lot of money, but their parent worked all the time, or different things that it's like, oh, before you can even understand your limiting beliefs around money, you probably need to work on like the childhood stuff too, right?
Totally.
Do you
That's
see
where
that?
they come from. Like this, that's what's wild. Majority of our beliefs about money we took on before we were 8 years old, which was before our conscious mind was even formed. That is where the majority come from. And we just hold on to them as if they're truths, which, I mean, we all do that as humans. And that's why it's so helpful to like be willing to look at it and go within and really question and notice what we're thinking, because thoughts become things. That literally what you hold becomes your reality. So
and like when you're under 8, you're like such a little person, it's
totally.
like that is so wild. I see it with clients, I see it with friends, I see it with us. Brad and I were raised totally different lives, different lifestyles, and it's like, oh, like something to me that's like no big deal. I was like, of course I would do that. Like he's like, oh, we always laugh too. Oh my gosh, this is like the funniest thing ever. He was like, one of my first impressions of you was like, oh, she always orders an appetizer at dinner. And I was like, that's just what we did, or like, they joke about like the Water families versus like the kids were allowed to have lemonade here and there. It's just, it's so funny. I joke that like Brad is like the person that says we have food at home, because I'm like, I'm so social. I like to go out to restaurants and talk to people and do things. And he's like, we have food at home. I'm like, okay, yes. And so we're on our own, as we like merge our families.
Totally. I know, as a couple, when you come together, right? It's actually, what I think is fun is it's also an opportunity to expand, because you can see what areas like their mindset is maybe more like expansive, and then take that on. And like I did that with my husband, and now that I'm doing this work, he's doing it with me. So it's been really fun to do it together.
It really does. Like one person starts the journey and the other person, you're kind of forced to either catch up with them or not get left behind, because in a good relationship you're not going to do that, but you level up together. And so no, I love it. So okay, as we wrap up, I have one question, and then we'll talk about the fun part, because it's clicks and giggles. So what is one way that you see women leaving money on the table, or even just people leaving money on the table? I know we've talked about a lot, but is there anything in particular that you're like, oh, people do this, and like if they just did this, it could be better? What comes to mind?
Well, I mean, there are so many actions that I could say, but honestly, if I were to say what would make the biggest difference, I really think it's like you deciding that you're worthy of more, making that decision. That's where people leave money on the table, is that they don't let themselves believe that it's possible for them.
Right? Or like even dream that it could be.
Exactly. They don't let themselves go there. They don't let themselves set audacious money goals, right? So that is, I think, big time where people leave money on the table, is they just don't give themselves permission to make more.
And to dream and to think. That's like, and that's such a thing we did as little ones and little people. So it's like we hold on to those beliefs, but we don't let ourselves dream like we did when we were little.
Because when we do that, and when we actually decided and claim we want to do something, the ideas for it come, and you just have to act on them. Right?
That's like a mic drop moment, No, that's good. Well, if you're listening, you're like, I want more, and it's before the challenge, do it. If it's after that you're listening to this down the road, just click in the show notes. There will be things linked that you can do. I'm sure you will do other challenges because you have before.
Totally.
So,
yep.
Okay, so let's go to the fun part of Clicks and Giggles. So I see you doing fun things on Instagram. What are some of the things you do for fun that's making you laugh nowadays?
Yeah.
You're in California, adventuring shows, etc. What's your like fun outlets?
Yes. I mean, I'm such a beach girl, so I go to the beach all the time. I have a condo in Maui, so that is
cool.
It's my favorite. It's the best. So going there and like seeing the whales and being in the water is just my happy place, and I love it. And yeah, I have me and my husband and my little dog. We have our little family, and we just love spending time together, really just taking time off, getting out in the world, moving our bodies and being in nature. That's what lights up my world.
It's so good. I see you hiking. I see y'all having fun. I love it. And I actually sent my husband, Brad, if you're listening to this, I know he listens to these on the way to his office, but I sent him, I was like, Brad, they have a condo. We need to go. We need to rent this condo. Like he loves Hawaii. I love Hawaii, but we've never been together. And I'm like, that is so... How did that, before we wrap up, how did that come to be? Had you always liked Hawaii?
It's a manifestation. Yes. I manifested it. It's funny because a lot of my clients and followers, like they followed the whole journey of me manifesting it. And then I bought it last year.
Wow.
So yeah, I've wanted it since I was 11 years old. The minute I went to Maui, I was like, I'm going to live here one day. And we're actually planning on moving there full time. But we wanted to get our feet wet and do the condo for, let me put it this way. My husband wanted to get his feet wet. I was ready, but he's like, let's like inch our way there. So we got the condo and realized, wait, what are we doing? Let's just move there. Like that's where we love being. And so we're going to move there, but I manifested it.
It's crazy. It's so cool. Well, if people want to go to Hawaii, I'll get the link to the Airbnb again.
Awesome. Yes, it's amazing. Right on the ocean. It's in an incredible location. You will have the best time. Yeah.
That's so cool. And there's real life example too. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm just glad to know you. And I also am glad to have you as a client, and
me too.
Cannot wait to have you back on here to talk about what else you've done since the last time we chatted.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jordan. I really appreciate it. I love working with you. If anyone's thinking of working with Jordan, work with her. You're the best. It's so great. Thank you.
You are so sweet. And anyone listening, please click in the show notes and get signed up for the challenge. Cannot wait for you to get to experience working with Jane.